It doesn't seem to like when I stream at 1080p sometimes. So I'm going to stream at 720 today. There you go. In any event, good morning yet again. It is Friday, November the 17th. I am, of course, Stephen Britton. I am here. I am live. I am loud, and I am proud. And, well, I've got my coffee. I've got my doctor's nightmare waiting for me to finish so I can eat it, which means I'm going to try and get through this quickly because I'm hungry. It's been one of those mornings. Let's just leave it at that. Now, today I've actually got a fully loaded session to go here. I've got 3 things that I want to get off my chest. Twitter, Trudeau, and Social Justice Nutjobs. Now, while they may appear to be correlated, as in Trudeau is on Twitter, Trudeau is a social justice nutjob, Twitter seems to be run by social justice nutjobs, and generally social justice nutjobs have a thing about being, generally mean to each other, or mean to non-social justice nutjobs. These are 3 separate issues. We'll start with Trudeau because he's the first thing that I wanted to get off my chest here, and this is something that's been bothering me for a little while now. I'm just looking up the article here as I'm talking about it. Basically, the way the story goes, or the way the story is posted, and CTV has covered it. CBC is, they need to be defunded, the CBC, has covered it. News World or whoever has covered it. A number of different news sources have covered this. The story goes that the Liberals and the health minister specifically will not deny entry to refugees who are carriers of infectious diseases like tuberculosis, or worst case scenario is Ebola. Now, Ebola is difficult to detect because you don't know you have it until you start showing symptoms, and once you start showing symptoms, it's too late. But let's use tuberculosis as an example because that is an infectious disease. Most people are not immunized against it, and it's a serious one. It used to be called consumption. So the Liberals have decided to open the border up to people with infectious diseases. Now, if you've got an infectious disease, your entry is going to get delayed a bit until you're healthy enough to enter the country, but they're not going to turn you away. Where does this stupidity end? Because in order to be treated, someone's got to pay for this. The person who's coming is a refugee. They haven't got the money for it. So who's going to pay for it? Guess what? You and me. I am all for offering people refuge. If you're facing persecution, if you're facing death for political views, ideology, religion, whatever, I am all over giving people a safe haven. But you've got to meet certain qualifications, and being sick is not one of them, and should not be one of them. If you're sick, you get healthy, then you get here. And of course, this is mainly based on refugees. Right now, the biggest one is refugees from Syria and that area. This is people fleeing from ISIS. And I get it. It's an emergency. But, there's tent cities over there. I think Saudi Arabia has a tent city. And there's nobody there. They're not going to the camps. They're not going to the refugee camps where they can have safe haven, get some medical care, get some aid, and stay and use as a staging area, or end up probably doing what's best is then once the war is over and ISIS is gone, bombed back into the Stone Age where they belong by Donald Trump. No thanks to our Prime Minister, Justin. I've never met a terrorist I didn't like, Trudeau. then they can go back and they could rebuild Syria. That would make perfect sense to me, wouldn't it? It's not that I don't want them here, but it's a long way from where they're from. They've got a completely different culture than Canada. And yes, they can and should assimilate into Canadian culture, but many of them don't want to. And that's a big problem as well. That represents a clash of cultures which can lead to a very serious danger for people. And again, a clash of cultures and different cultures and being exposed to different cultures and belief systems is not a bad thing. I've traveled the world. I've seen different countries. Singapore is one of my favorites. I got incredibly sick in Hong Kong. That's not Hong Kong's fault. That was actually something I picked up. I'm pretty sure I picked that up in Melbourne. But that's their culture. And we have a completely different culture than they do. So there's that as an issue as well. But back to the whole infectious diseases thing. I don't want someone with tuberculosis being delayed entry and then coming in. I want someone who's got a clean bill of health before they apply to come to Canada. Thank you very much. So that's my rant on Justin Trudeau, because he really is the guy in charge here. And he's completely and totally ruining this country. We had a good country, and now Justin Trudeau is Prime Minister. We no longer do. And don't know why that came up with sound, but there you go. So that was number one. I've now talked about Trudeau. Number two, Social Justice Nutjobs. This is something that crossed my desk from Twitter, and I saw it, and I wanted to go on and on and on about it a little bit today. It was a campus event at Kennesaw State University, KSW. Now, this is down in the States, but this applies to Canada as well, because this happens here. There was a free speech event sponsored by the campus libertarians. And if you wanted to put up a sign with a slogan or a viewpoint, you could. If you wanted to put up a sign that said abortion is murder, you could. If you wanted to put up a sign that said a fetus is a bunch of cells, you could. It's called free speech and free expression. So there were a number of signs. There are two genders. Abortion is murder. And so on and so forth. Another one said, defund Planned Parenthood. Harry Potter, gender wage gap, both fantasy, said one of the signs. These are all signs which are perfectly valid opinions and points of view. Of course, the social justice warriors got in on the act, and they came over and they started destroying the signs that they didn't like. This all naturally got caught on film by people. They were confronted by someone who claimed to be the owner of the signs. And the one real smug piece of trash woman, I use that term loosely, because she was certainly not very ladylike. Oh, is this yours? Yes. Can I see your receipt for it, please? Is your name on it? Is my name on my shirt? Can I see the receipt for your sign? Like, what a stupid thing to say and what a stupid attitude. Their whole approach was, we're not going to allow these signs on our campus because these signs promote hatred and violence. Well, first, they don't promote hatred and violence. And second of all, they are opinions and they are equally valid and equally reasonable as yours. And this is the fundamental problem with the social justice warriors. They hate you. They hate freedom. They hate any viewpoint which isn't the same as their own. And shame on them for that. Now, this one ended beautifully in my view, because the owner of the signs contacted the campus police, and they sent over an officer. And the campus police officer spoke to the lady who asked if the person's name was on their signs. And she got confrontational. She got hostile. He asked her what her name was, and she wouldn't give it. Can I ask why I'm being questioned? Well, you've been accused of destroying these signs. Why is that a problem? It's a crime. How? It's private property, says the police officer. And she says, is there a receipt for it? And the police officer just was like, he looks up at the sky in the video, and he says, "Oh, do we have to do it this way? Do you really want to do it this way? I can take you to jail if you don't identify yourself. That's how this works," he says. So she identifies herself, and then somebody else sticks his nose in where it doesn't belong, of course, and says, "How can you support the Republicans promoting hatred and violence?" And at this point, the police officer hauls the two people that he had detained away, and they have a conversation over at his car where there's no interruptions. Wonderful. It's about time the police started enforcing the law properly. If you destroy property, if you prevent someone that you disagree with from speaking their mind and expressing their opinion, you are a criminal. And I don't care what that opinion is. You're a criminal. And you should be arrested for violating my or somebody else's freedom of speech. Freedom means freedom for everybody, not just you. Get over it. Number 2, check off my chest. Yay. Number 3, Twitter. Twitter is, of course, run by Social Justice Nutjobs, and we can tell because the way they've been selectively enforcing their policies, and it has unfairly hit conservative tweeters, Twitter members. I happen to be on the Twitter platform. I don't really know how much longer I will be. There's other platforms out there, but for as long as Twitter allows me to be there, I will, because I will not be silenced. The issue is regarding their verification, their little blue tick mark that they use to verify an identity. Now, you'd think, and it would make sense to think, that the check mark really does mean this person is who they say they are. There's a preponderance of fake accounts on Twitter. How many accounts use the Donald Trump photograph and are some variation of the spelling at real Donald Trump, or whatever his handle is? I don't even think that's the right one. Only one Donald Trump account has a blue check mark, and that is the account that belongs to Donald Trump. So and by the way, do you really think Twitter would dare remove that check mark from Donald Trump? That being said, there's one guy who has a check mark, and he's tweeted the most horrendous stuff, full of curses and attacks on people. But he's a socialist. He still has his check mark. And here's what Twitter has said. These are a series of tweets. They start on November the 9th, and they continue through. Verification was meant to authenticate and identify and voice, but it is interpreted as an endorsement. Well, it shouldn't be. And any reasonable person would realize that the checkmark doesn't mean Twitter endorses their point of view or an indicator of importance. But okay, well, that point is that's one's Twitter's own fault, because Twitter gave extended privileges to people with the checkmark, i.e., a person with a checkmark was able to filter out anyone who wasn't verified. We recognize that we have created this confusion and need to resolve it. We have paused all general verifications while we work, and we'll report back soon. Okay, fine. 1, update on our verification program and the actions we are taking. Verification, number 2. Verification has long been perceived as an endorsement. No, it shouldn't be, and as I said, a reasonable person would not expect that. We gave verified accounts visual prominence on the service, which deepened this perception. That is true, and that's their own fault. We should have addressed this earlier, but did not prioritize the work as we should have. Fine, fair enough. The perception became worse when we opened up verification for public submissions and verified people who we in no way endorse. So what? You don't have to agree with someone. A verification means this person is who they say they are. I am Stephen Britton, and here's my ID. Here's the proof that I am. That's all that Twitter needs to know and care about. Twitter is not in the business of broadcasting their opinion to the world. Twitter is in the business of providing a platform to people so those people can broadcast their opinions to the world. We are working on a new authentication and verification program. In the meantime, we are not accepting any public submissions for verification and have introduced new guidelines for the program. Okay. Number 5. We are conducting an initial review of verified accounts and will remove verification from accounts whose behavior does not fall within these new guidelines. We will continue to review and take action as we work towards a new program we are proud of. And what's happened? Well, Richard Spencer and others have lost their check marks. Now, I think Richard Spencer is probably a horrendous person. I fundamentally disagree with almost pretty much everything that Richard Spencer says and believes. The guy is an identitarian white nationalist. He's a racist. It's that simple. He has a right to be a racist. That doesn't mean that he should lose his blue checkmark. What it means is he's a racist, and people should understand that about him when they read his stuff. But Twitter has decided that because he's a racist, they don't want him on their platform as a verified person. Therefore, they're going to take away their blue checkmark from his identity. So that means now pretty much anybody can sign up and call themselves Richard Spencer and tweet things pretty much on his behalf. And nobody has any way of knowing which one is the real Richard Spencer. So all of a sudden you can get people actually calling for physical violence against a certain race or a certain ethnicity or a certain religious group. These people then claim that they're Richard Spencer, and the next thing you know, Richard Spencer himself is getting into all kinds of trouble for stuff that he didn't actually do. Now that's an extreme example. They did it to Milo Yiannopoulos. Now the guy is definitely a provocateur. And he definitely said some rather direct things to Leslie Jones. But they came from Milo Yiannopoulos. He admits it. He said it himself. But what he said wasn't that horrible. It was insulting, but that was it. And Twitter removed his checkmark. And in that case, Twitter removed his checkmark for what people other than Milo Yiannopoulos did. They punished Milo for the actions of others. That's not right either. But this is how the social justice nutjobs work. They think in groups. They think all conservatives are monolithic. All conservatives believe the same thing. All conservatives are evil. All conservatives are racists. All conservatives are Nazis. All people who are not social justice warriors hate women. That's what social justice warriors believe. And that's a serious problem. Libertarians such as myself are not members of a collective. I am me. I am neither right nor left. I am neither up nor down. I am simply Steve. That is who I am. That is what I am. My preferred gender pronoun is His Majesty, which is obviously satirical. But that is me. I am a partial billionaire. I am a recovering atheist. I am sick and tired of people telling me how to live my life, how to spend my money, and what to say and what not to say. I will not be silenced. And it is for reasons such as that this program of mine and others out there, like that of Sargon of Akkad, like that of Dave Rubin, like that of Steven Crowder, like that of anybody who is a libertarian, free thinker, and anti-social justice warrior deserves to be paid attention to. And with that, I'll finish up here, and I'll remind you that if you like this video, please do stick a like below. It helps the YouTube algorithm. There's a subscribe button. Please do subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to build up the subscriber base. I'm also available. You can find me on Patreon at scbritain. You can find me on Twitter, scbritain. You can find me on minds.com at scbritain. I've made it easy for you. And you can find me over on Facebook at Steve Speaks Freely. So those are where you can find me. Please do consider sending me a little bit of a sponsorship over on Minds or on Patreon. That will help this program improve in quality. It'll improve my bandwidth. It'll improve my camera equipment. And it'll generally make things better and better quality. Eventually, hopefully, I'll be able to hire some staff and have some people do some researching for me to free up some time so I can devote to producing better quality videos as well. So that's kind of what the plan is, and I really do hope you've enjoyed the show. And with that, I'll talk to you on Monday. I'm Steve Britton.